Right, let's move forward then. So you're working on the building game. How was it that you got into the door game yourself, and how did you get to know Andre? That's Russian Andre.
Well, at the time, I think work was a bit scarce, and I think I just had an hernia operation, so I didn't want to lift heavy stuff. And I was at my mate's tattooist, who was good friends with the area manager of the door firm, and also he knew AJ and that. So he said, I'll have a word, see if they want any doormen over there. So I went over there with my brother, met up with AJ, and he said, yeah, come and work here. And that was the beginning of it over there.
So AJ was, just for the listeners, AJ
Mick
was
Kelly's brother-in-law. That's Mick Kelly's brother-in-law.
Yeah, Mick Kelly. So Michael Kelly, who, for those who haven't seen the videos, you can find them on the channel. He was like a big security boss in Essex and London throughout the years, through the sort of 80s and 90s and early 2000s.
And I knew it when he took over, because they was freshly built all over the festival. And at the time, all the locals were moaning that the Russians had come in and all that as doormen, and they weren't putting up with no shit no more. So I knew of Russian Andre's name anyway. And a lot of people thought Dell was Russian as well, but he weren't. He was African. But obviously it put the locals' nose out of joint, because they was used to it, having it their own way. Like in every area, you want it your own way, don't you? And then when someone says no to you, it's a bit of a, you know.
So you had Polish Michael.
That's it.
Russian Andre. You had quite a mob of them, didn't you, Michael? Brought down.
There was a few vowels, I think, a few vowels there.
And they were, and Michael was having to work with the old Bill then, because of the situation with Leah Betts, rest in peace, and the situation with Tony, Craig, and Pat, who had been murdered. There was a lot of tension. What was the feeling like after the killings? You were saying it was a lot of paranoia.
Once they were murdered, and the heat come on to Basildon big time, like with the police and that, and they tried reopening Raquel's and it wouldn't work. And then all that's left was time. And like I said, time was a lot more respectable, as in you had to be dressed nice, you had to have girls with you and whatnot. And then they built the Bas Vegas, and it was all different doormen. There was no drugs going on in there, no nothing. Anyone they didn't want, they were fucked off right from the off. So it just kept a cleaner atmosphere than what it had been before. Before it was just like Basildon people running riot, you know, like in every area, isn't it?
Well, that just to describe to the viewers. So this was the first super club opened, and I'll just give them an idea of how big it was. There was loads of clubs, weren't there, inside it?
It's massive. It was 4 clubs altogether, 2, 3 floors, and you went in all different entrances. But after 11 o'clock, they opened all interlinking doors, so then you could go to anywhere, and it held nearly 4,000 people.
4,000.
Yeah.
So it's a massive venue. And how many doormen? Would you have different doormen in each?
When we first started, because I started there when they had the revamp, they'd redecorated it all, called it a few different names like they do, and we started off with 40 doormen to deal with it. By the time I left, I think we was down to about 16 doormen.
Well, yeah.
I mean, I know the numbers had dropped, but we still used to get a couple of thousand people in there. Yeah. And it was still, like I said, one of the clubs in particular that was like a certain type of music, attracted certain type of people, and it was just explosive in there all the time.
Lots of different gangs coming down, or mobs from
all
London
gangs non-stop.
Was it? Was that where the main trouble was when you was on the door?
Yeah, non-stop.
So, can you tell us about any sort of significant fights and stuff where you've had to hold the door and all that type of stuff?
I'll tell you what, there was so many going on, you wouldn't have believed what was going on there. Because like I said, it was away from houses, and we used to shut at 4 a.m. So, but like we'd be out in a car park fighting, people be running people over, going to cars, getting bats, knives, whatever, or we'd be out the back doing it with them. Because it was always, in our day, if you turned up the club, it'd be like 2 girls, 2 blokes, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
By the time it got to this stage, it was gangs of men booking tables with the champagne, the vodka and that. And because they're big spenders, let them in. So in the end, you've got groups and groups and groups of men. So when it kicks off, it's a war. Because like I said, you take one of them out, you've got to take 10 out.
Yeah.
And if it ain't us with them, it's them against each other because they're from different parts of London.
Right.
And then you get in between them and everyone turns on you.
Yeah. So it's the gang vibe from London and the postcode thing and all that.
Yeah, of course it was, yeah.
So northeast. So with Andre, because Andre, I know Andre said when we met that you guys worked at each other's backs and everything.
Yeah, you know, when you just make so, I think a lot of it, me and Andre, we both got the same sense of humour.
Yeah.
We've got a bit of a warped sense of humour, yeah. So I can remember when I first met him and that, he'd come up and shake me hand and he was always giggling away at something or other. And then we just got on so well. And also at the time, he worked in the town. There was the Towngate pub on the corner from the Bullseye. And they'd had some trouble there. And AJ phoned me up and said, can you go down there with them? So I used to work there from 5 in the afternoon on a Saturday until that shut at 12 and then go on to the clubs after with Andre and Albanian Tony.
And what was the dough like back in those days? I was working the door. I was head Doormen at a boozer in Stoke back in, it would have been mid-90s. Was it mid-90s? Late 90s, I think. But it was 10 quid an hour.
Yeah.
Now, I was speaking to a doorman the other day, and he was on £12.80 an hour.
Yeah.
And that's nearly 30 years ago.
Yeah, no, and they want to tax them now on it as well. They want them to pay PYE with it. I know, it's criminal. And all the reason why is they want to get people down the job centre. They send them on the course to get their badge. They'll pay for it. Now he's qualified. So what are the big companies going to do? Buy the cheapest as many as they can, aren't they? They don't give monkeys, you know.
So back when you was doing it then, was it cash in hand?
Yeah.
So you could earn some good dough. So did you work all weekend?
Yeah, I used to work about 4 or 5 days a week.
Yeah, so that's nice. It's nice.
Yeah, that's all I've done full time, basically.
So did you have any either with the local Essex lads in the pub that you worked before you went to the Super Club?
To be honest, it's what you got a lot more of, like always, people throwing their names around. More than actual them themselves. They might do one thing, but another 30 people do it on the back of their name. And like I said, I know most of them. I even know them to this day. And like I said, we're all older now. They're nice people, you know. But it was just a time and place. The doorman are telling you one thing when you want to do another. It is what it is, isn't it? You know. And so, like I said, you used to get dickheads all the time, but most of them they didn't even bother trying to get in. Because I mean, on a Friday night it was £1 a pint. I think it was terrible.
Was it?
Yeah, you could turn up in track bottoms, football shirt, whatever you wanted. And so if you're going to let that type of people in, you're going to get them type of problems, aren't you? You know, you just have to be firm with them.
Yeah. And so who was the football? Did you get football mobs and that would come into the club and, you know, the football firms and whatnot around London?
Not as firms they did, and it'd just be, you know, like people local want to support their team and act like tosspots